Today in this video what we are going to do is create this amazing cloud animation as you can see on the website. If I hover my mouse over to the cloud, you can see the cloud is expanding, and if I click on it, you can see that it is raining. So we are basically going to create this animation. How we are going to do that is by using a website called Rive. Alright, so I would suggest you go onto the Rive website and log in, and once you have logged in, click on the community section over here. I wanted a cloud animation for this effect. So I searched for the cloud effect. Okay, now you can see that there are tons of animations that are available open source for free to use. Just have to give credits to the author. I really like this rain icon animation, so I'm going to click on it. Now, as you can see, there are two types of parameter in this animation. If I hover on this, you can see that this is hover is being activated. All right. So, and if I click on pressed, you can see that it starts to rain. So now these are the two things basically which we have to implement in Flutter. Is pressed and is hover. Okay, this animation asset, we can then download it. So we are going to download it. I have already downloaded it in the assets folder, so I'm not going to do that. So once we have downloaded the rain.drive asset and place it inside the assets folder, we're going to create a new file and name it raincloud.dat. Now we're going to create a stateful widget named rain. And inside this widget, what we're going to do is we're going to return a container. Okay. So now there are a couple of things that we need to do when we are using Rive imports inside a Flutter project. The first of them is we need to create an artboard. I'm going to give it a name of rain artboard. So once that is done, we are going to create the init state function. So inside the init state, we're going to call root bundle.load, give it the asset location, and that in our case is asset/rive/rain.drive. And once that is done, it is going to return the variable which is of the type bytecode, as we can see over here, byte data, which is of the type byte data. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use that data and place it inside. We're going to specify that that data is a Rive import file. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to call set state, and over here what we're going to do is rain artboard is equal to file.main artboard. All right, that is all what we need to do to import the Rive. So now inside our build function, what we need to do is inside the container, we're going to specify a child and give it of the type Rive. So now Rive is a widget that takes an argument of artboard. And over here, the artboard that we need to provide is rain artboard. And we're going to specify that it is not null. So now I've copied this rain widget and I'm going to paste it inside our home.dat file. Okay. So I have imported this and let's see if this is working now. Okay, this is working pretty fine. So one step that I missed to show in the video is that I also have to add this over here inside the pub.dev. You need to specify that the assets are coming from the Rive folder as well. Rive animation is successfully imported. The next step what we need to do is, as we can see in the website, that this animation is interactable. We can hover over this animation. We can also press this animation. So how do we do that in Flutter? So there are a couple of steps to this as well. First of all, let's go to this rain widget. Now what we need to do is basically these are two variables that are in the website, right? Is pressed and is hover. We need to activate those variables programmatically. How do we do that? We need to create a SMI input, and this is of the type bool, and this can be nullable. Okay. So we need to create objects of this class SMI input. And we have two variables over here. First is pressed and second is hovered. So we are going to create two. Both are of the type bool. Second one, I will give it a name of hover. Okay. So now inside our init folder, what we need to do is we are going to create another variable called artboard. And over here, we're going to specify main artboard. Over here, we're going to remove this as well to artboard. So now using this artboard, we're going to create a controller. Controller is equal to state machine controller. And over here, we're going to specify the artboard that we're using and the name of the state machine. which in this case we can easily get over here. Okay, so over here, as you can, if we just go over here and if we just go into this file and click on this remix button, you're going to see this inside the Rive editor. Inside the Rive editor, we can see that this is the name of the state machine 1. So we're going to just copy this name and put it over here, state machine 1. Okay, so now this is showing an error. Why is that? Because we have to specify this as well, state machine controller dot from artboard. So now we have now we have fetched the state machine. Now the state machine is basically, contains the logic of all the animation that this contains. Just imagine state machine as the parent that is controlling all the animations. You don't need to go deep into that. Just remember this code. Now we're going to check if controller not equal to null. Now the name of the state machine can be something else as well. This is just because we can rename this as well. The person who created this animation has not renamed it. Okay, so that is why its name is state machine 1. Okay, so just make sure that you write the correct name over here. Otherwise it can throw errors. Okay, all right, so if the controller is not null, what we're going to do is we're going to fetch the artboard and add a controller to it. And the controller that we are adding is basically this controller that we have created over here. Now this controller has given us access to all the variables that this artboard can contain. So we're going to specify the value of rain by default to controller dot find input. All right, is pressed. Where am I getting this name from? Over here. You can see that these are the two names of the variable, is pressed and is hover. Okay, if we press this, it starts to rain. If we press this, the cloud is hovered. Okay, that is all we need to do. The value of the rain variable will come from is pressed, and the value of hover will come from is hover. Okay, by default we're going to give it a value of false because it can be null. Okay, because by default we don't want any animation to start, right? We want it to start when the user is interacting with the animation. Okay, yeah, so that is done. Now you can see that this black this black container is like showing up over here. And why is that? Because if we just go into Rive over here, you can see that the background of this is also black. Like this is black inside the Rive editor. If we open it inside the Rive editor, you can see over here that the background is black. How do we tackle that? Basically, I've told you that you have to open it inside the Rive editor. Click on this cloud thing, and over here inside the fills, you need to disable this. Okay, disable this, and once you have disabled this, just go and click on download. That I'm going to do right now. Click on OK, and this will be downloaded. Okay, so once that is downloaded, replace this asset when you need to hot restart the application. Okay, you need to stop the project and restart it again. All right, as you can see that the black box over here is gone. Now we need to do that interactivity thing. How do we do that? Let's find out. All right, so there are a couple of things we have to do. First is to check if the button is being pressed. If the cloud is pressed, we can use the gesture detector. Okay, so I'm just simply going to wrap it inside the gesture detector, and on tap, I'm going to change the value. All right, so once we've added the gesture detector on tap, I'm going to call a function, okay, which I'm going to create over here, play rain. Okay, so what this function is basically going to do is it's going to check if the rain dot value is equal to false, then we're going to specify rain dot value is equal to true, and similarly if it is true, I'm going to set it to false. All right, and I'm going to call this function over here. Let's see if it is working. Okay, this is working pretty fine. If I'm pressing the button, you can see that the animation starts, and if I press the button again, animation stops. So yeah, that is looking fine. The next thing what we need to do is the hover, check if the mouse is hovered over here. For that, Flutter has a widget. The name of the widget is mouse region. Mouse region. It gives us two value. On enter, okay, we can call a function over here, or on exit. Okay, so when it is entering, what I can do is I can give the value of hover to true, and when it exits, I can set the value of hover to false. Alright, so once the auto loading is done, let's see if it's working. I forgot to call set state. Yeah, this is working. Okay, this is working pretty fine. The only issue is I need to control the height and width, because by default if I check, I think it is taking a lot of space. Yeah, it is taking the whole screen. So that is why when I enter the mouse, it is showing the hovered effect, but it is not exiting. Alright, so what we're going to do is we are going to use a couple of arguments inside this Rive widget. Use artboard size to true. Okay, so let's reduce the size by a little bit. Next up, what we need to do is specify fit. Box fit dot cover. Next up, we need to do is we need to control the height and width. I'm going to give it a width of 220 and a height of 100. Okay, this is pretty reasonable. You can, if you want, you can reduce the width more also, but I want this much area. Okay, like if the user enters over here, I want the cloud to start interacting with them. Okay, this is working. I don't think we don't need to call set state as well. This works by default. Okay, so now I can simply remove this color, and this cloud is exactly where it is supposed to be. We have this null error by default. Why is that? Because before the asset is loaded, this build is already like shown in the UI, right? So what we can do is, during the time it is null, we can just simply the water, if the rain artboard is not null, I want it to show the size box, but if it is null, during that time I want it to show a container. Alright, so now that null error is also gone. So now the only thing left to do is we need to, like if we go to the website, now the only thing left to do is that these clouds are traveling, right? We need to introduce that traveling animation. Like they're moving from left to right. One cloud is moving from left to right and the other is moving from right to left. How do we do that? We're going to use tween animation builder. So we're going to wrap this using a builder and change its name to tween animation builder. So this takes a tween by default, and this tween is basically the range of animation from left to right. Okay, this builder also gives a value and another thing. So I'm going to specify the tween over here. It also needs a duration, so I'm going to give it a duration of 600 seconds, because I want it to take a long time a long time to travel from left to right to reach the end. Okay, so over here inside the tween, I'm going to give it a begin value. Okay, so this begin value should be basically it should start from around here and end here, right? So this value must be 0, or let's say 100, because the width of cloud is also there, and I want it to reach till the width, right? So how do I get the width? I'm going to use the size variable. Okay, so it should begin from 0 and end at size dot width. For this demonstration purpose, let's say test 3. Let's restart it. It is not working. Yeah. Why is it not working? Because I forgot to use a position widget over here. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a position widget from left. This should be the value. This is basically the value that this widget returns. All right. As you can see that the cloud is zooming past over here. Okay. Let's see the animation once again. Okay, this is looking great. In the end, I want it to stop. So what I'm going to do is it should be size dot width minus maybe 150. Okay, a little bit more. Maybe 180. Next up, what I need this cloud to do is it should be below. It should be like below the layer of this phone, right? So how do I do that? Inside my home page, I'm going to cut it from here. Cut this rain widget from here. I'm going to add it after the gradient layer. Okay, so now as you can see, this is working pretty fine. So now I need to add another cloud that should start from right and end till left, right? And that cloud should also interact with these bottom clouds, right? I want it to be over there. So I'm going to use another cloud. Now there are two clouds. Okay. So, but this cloud I wanted to start from the right side. So what I'm going to do is inside this rain widget, I'm going to ask for an argument. I need to ask for two arguments actually. First is the distance from the top. Next is should they act in opposite directions or not. Now I'm going to make these both required. All right. Over here, what I'm going to do is in the position widget, I'm going to introduce this top. And if they both are, if the widget is basically opposite, what I'm going to do is I want it to begin from this right edge. I want it to end at the left edge, right? So I basically need to reverse the animation. How do I do that? Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check for that over here. Widget dot opposite. If that is true, I want it to start from size dot width minus 180. All right. And I want it to end at 0, right? So same logic over here. Widget dot opposite. That is true. I want it to start from 0. So now inside our home page, in the initial one, I'm going to give the opposite value to false and the top value to 20. And over here, I'm going to give the opposite to true and top to 150. Yeah, these both are working pretty fine. The only thing I need to do is I need to change the top value. I want it to interact with these bottom clouds as well. So I'm going to keep changing this value until I get a sweet spot. Not again. 260. A little bit more. Like you can fine tune it according to your needs. Yeah, so this is working. Now this cloud should also be below that other clouds, right? So how do I do that? I'm going to cut this from here. So this is the layer of those clouds and I'm going to add it below that. Yeah, so these are looking pretty fine. The only thing I need to do now is I just need to just need to increase the duration to 600 seconds. So now these both are looking pretty fine. This is exactly what I wanted. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with this. In the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to build on top of this. We're going to add assets over here. We're going to give the final touches to the project and wrap it up. Thanks for watching.